All right, and we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Barnon11970. Good morning, good afternoon, and/or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. Hopefully, you will get the opportunity to watch it live. If not, hey, anytime you get the chance to listen, and maybe something I say helps you in a way, I'm very happy about that. So right now, it is now officially the 21st of September 2018. It is currently 1:35 a.m. Now, I was checking my website, well, my YouTube channel. I haven't been here in a day or two. And then all of a sudden I saw a major spike in viewership, which for me is actually shocking because YouTube does a heck of a job blocking my channel. But I saw there were a bunch of people that saw my Orgone Pyramid, how to make them. And first of all, I want to say to anybody that's here because of that video, welcome. I hope you will listen to many of my videos and hopefully learn a lot of things you do not learn in the mainstream media, in the education departments around the world. Your governments, doesn't matter. And I know one of the biggest things I'm starting to see is a change where people are actually starting to care. Now, I have been on this channel and my previous channel, which I shut down, since 2011. I was talking about the whole fake news thing before anybody even thought that was popular. And it's been an interesting ride watching the transition of people throughout the world. And good morning, I see people are starting to come in. And a lot of people are starting to say, well, what can I do to change the world? Now, the one thing I want to say is, especially if you are new, one of the biggest traps you will fall in when you first start getting that quote-unquote awakening moment is you want to change everything in the world tomorrow. And the first advice I want to give people is you first have to start with yourself. You have to get yourself in order. I mean, think of it this way. If you wanted to be a person that taught people how to work out, well, you can't be somebody that's extremely obese and has never worked out before and think you're going to be able to have the confidence and the ability to train somebody else and motivate them in the right way. So the first thing you want to do is make sure your own house is in order. And that's going to be hard because when you awaken from the sleep, is what I like to call it, you want to do everything that you can as fast as you can. And trust me when I say in the beginning that's going to lead to a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, and a lot of times you're going to want to quit. And believe me, I've been through it. It's like any kind of death. You have to go through several stages. And when you think about it, if you're a person like me and how I was back in like 2008, for example. In 2008, I was your typical leftist liberal. I loved Obama. I loved watching MSNBC. I loved all of the things that this country was, the direction it was headed. I hated Republicans. I hated, you know, all this stuff that was going on. I used to love watching The Daily Show and, you know, having a good laugh at other people's expenses. Didn't care about anything as far as researching it myself. As long as I put on MSNBC or CNN, I believed everything that I was told. And one of the biggest things that you'll find is, when it comes to belief, whether you believe in something or you don't believe in something, either way, you don't know. And that's why if you ever write out the word believe, you will notice right smack in the middle is the word lie. And before we get that awakened moment, we all say to ourselves, you know, I want to believe in this, I want to believe in that. You start resonating with different things, and people take advantage of you for that because there's so many different rabbit holes to go down, and a lot of those rabbit holes lead to dead ends. And if you lead yourself down enough paths that end up ultimately leading to dead ends, eventually you want to stop walking the path. So, like somebody said, I saw somebody commenting on a sun gazing video where I talk about how I used to sun gaze. I got to get back into it, as a matter of fact. But I tell people, you got to start out at 10 seconds. You have to do it right. You have to make sure you do your research. Don't rush it. and somebody left a comment that they just found my video, and they said, oh, I wish I would have found yours sooner because I did it the first time 7 minutes and it hurt my eyes. Well, like in life, you don't want to rush. Because just imagine if tomorrow you could snap your fingers and have everything you've ever wanted. Now that sounds great, but then what do you do? If you have everything in your life that you want, where is your sense of adventure? Where's your quest? Where's your motivation? So the idea is slow down. Gather things in. I'm not saying to believe or not believe something that may seem strange or something that you resonate with, but at least learn about it from both sides, because you could never learn the full truth until you see all sides of the spectrum. So if you want to change the world and do it the right way, the first thing you have to do is get rid of the resonating side that only says, my way is the right way, or this thing that I believe in is the only way. Because even if you are right, sometimes you can learn from your enemies more than you can your friends. Because sometimes you can learn what not to do. So you have to see the world from all perspectives, not just yours or not just what you want to resonate with. Because just because you believe in something does not mean you are right, even if the whole world agrees with you. And vice versa. If you think something's wrong, even if the whole world agrees with you, does not mean that it is true. Because truth boils down to perception. So if you want to get the most out of trying to do anything, and it's always good, if you're one of those people that said, you know what, I woke up yesterday, I woke up 5 minutes ago, I'm waking up at this moment, it doesn't matter when. It's what you do that counts at this point. So don't take this lightly. You have to learn from your friends. You have to learn from strangers. You have to learn from enemies. You have to learn from things that you think are absolutely crazy. Because if somebody told you 10 years ago that places like CNN and MSNBC and all these places are basically these are paid actors there to deceive you, you would have thought they were crazy. Well, just because something seems out of the ordinary does not mean it cannot be possible. So you have to open yourself up to not believe everything, but at least listen. And I want to say something really quick. I always do this. If somebody's nice enough to do one of the super chats, and by all means it is not mandatory, this is going to be probably the hardest name to ever try and pronounce. So I'll spell it out, ASDFJKL, so obviously somebody that's typing. And then Worder Up. Thank you for that super chat. But yeah, that's probably the hardest name I've ever had to announce. But if anybody ever does that, I want to make sure I read their comment because I appreciate that. So thank you. But the biggest thing I see now is there are people, you know, like they say, drowning in good intention. Brittany's a lot easier, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. I see so many people starting to wake up, which is a good thing. A lot more people being concerned. But what happens is you get this group thought mentality where you kind of latch on to a certain belief system and you stay there and you automatically shut off another half of the world. Saying, well, this is the particular place, idea, thing, person, what have you, that I'm going to resonate with. So I'm just going to shut off the rest of the world. And that's very dangerous because you're only getting half of the equation. How can you solve an answer if you only get half of the problem? And Rhea says she's going to sleep, so have pleasant dreams. Hopefully you'll see this when it does post. So you see people, the whole left and right thing, the whole male-female thing. Remember, there's a thing called yin or yin and yang, which means there is balance, and there's a little bit of each one inside one another, and they kind of intertwine and gel into each other. It's a flow. You cannot have a world of all yin, and you cannot have a world with all yang, because it creates imbalance. So with the mindset of drowning in good intention, you can actually do more harm than good. And trust me, I've learned that the hard way. And I want to give some of my expertise from my wisdom that I can share with you. Is you have to listen to all sides. And it's actually kind of funny because my wife will kind of kid about this with me a lot of times, where I'll be watching stuff on YouTube and I'll watch a lot of things I resonate with, but every now and then I'll listen to something that's crazy or crazy sounding. And my wife will kind of get on me. It's like, why are you listening to that? And I can understand why. And again, somebody put a super chat, and it's a little bit easier to say this name, so it's the Quaz 182. Thank you for that super chat. That was very nice of you. And my wife will say, well, why are you listening to that? Because it's not anything what you're normally listening to. Because I want to get a full picture so I can draw the best conclusions for what will work for me. And people need to, what I call, innerstand. That 1,000 people can see something in 1,000 different ways. And it's David Remley. Thank you, David. I appreciate that, people letting me know what their usernames are. I like that, so thank you. And I've used this example before, but I got a lot of new people. And you have emailed me, thank you. It's a pleasure to get to know you. I've used this example before, but I got a lot of new people, so I'm going to try and put this in perspective so you can see. If you were to take the cardboard tubing from a thing of toilet paper, and if you put a flashlight to the long part of the tube, it would show an image of a rectangle on the wall or wherever the shadow casts. If you take that same tube and turn the circle part towards the light, you will now see a reflection of a circle. Now, the problem we have in this world is we have one group of people seeing the rectangle, another group of people seeing the circle, and they're telling each other that they're wrong instead of what I call innerstanding. And please don't apologize. I appreciate it. So no, you didn't interrupt, and that's okay. I want to make many people make channels where if they get super chats, they just ignore them and let them go by. I want to acknowledge somebody for doing something that kind. And hey, if it distracts me for a second, believe me, I've had worse distractions in my life than somebody being kind. So trust me, I'll accept those kind of distractions. So the whole world is saying my side is right or my thought is right and yours is absolutely wrong, and I'll cover my ears and I'll cover my eyes and I will not hear or see anything that you have to say. And that is very dangerous and is not productive, because what if your perspective is wrong? Or better yet, what if your perspective can grow by getting some helpful information from another person's perspective? It's just like opinion. There is no wrong opinion. It's just your opinion. So if you really want to change the world, you have to see the world from all different sides, because then you can formulate a better opinion. Instead of saying, I'm going to go with Group A because, you know what, they're a bigger group and they have influence and I won't be bullied if I'm there. No, you have to say to yourself, can I do this standing alone, even going against what everybody else thinks? Because true power is not formulating a group, because the group needs to use each and every individual's energy to mass the same balance as one person can, standing on their own true belief or truth in their heart. And there's a lot of ways that people can get distracted. There's a lot of ways that people can get very angry. And trust me, I still get that to this day. You don't want to suppress your emotions, because then it's just like shaking a soda bottle and then just opening the cap and watching everything explode. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to feel sad or angry or frustrated. But if you hide it or pretend, well, you know, I've been told by my guru or by these group of people or by the videos that I watch that I have to be nice, I have to suck it in, I have to take it, I have to think positive. No, then you're just doing the yin and not the yang. It's all about balance. The idea is it's okay to cry every now and then, but it's not healthy if you cry every single day for the rest of your life. It's okay to vent your frustration and get angry, but it's not okay to do it every single day to your life to the point where you're violent towards other people. The same thing goes for if you have anger, that you hold it in, because that causes damage to yourself internally. And how can you change anyone else if the inside of you is being destroyed? Brittany says, the one thing that upsets me is most people at school tell my son that boys don't cry, and he's a very emotional, sensitive person, and he's only 11. Well, here's the thing. A sensitive person and an emotional person means a caring person. Last time I checked, that's not necessarily a bad thing. An emotional, sensitive person will actually want to see maybe a kitten in the road and try and save it. Maybe seeing an elderly person being hurt and they come to their rescue. Maybe a person that is living homeless in the streets and they decide instead of just walking past or making fun of them or trying to rob them, they hand them money or they hand them food. I was always, and still to this day, I am a very emotional, sensitive person. Who cares if anybody else says it's bad? The problem is, people are going to judge you no matter what you do. And it only affects you if you choose to believe it. Because, like I said, there's the word lie in belief. Just because the whole world points to you and says you're a duck does not make you a duck unless you choose to believe you are. So, if your son is emotional, that means he has feelings. That means he cares. That means he's probably going to go through a lot of pain. But you know what that pain will do to that person? It will make him fearless. He will one day wake up and grow up to be someone strong because they know how to experience the negative parts. Better to get that out of the way early in life. People view negativity as a bad thing when it's just the yin to the yang. It's just part of the equation. People never apologize for laughing or having a good time, but they always seem like they have to hide or be sorry for being sad. It's okay. So if your son is over-emotional or just happens to be emotional, that means he has emotion. The alternative is being somebody who doesn't care, who can run over an animal and find it funny, who could see a homeless person and laugh at them, who could actually be given money to take somebody's life. Not for nothing, I choose being over-emotionally sensitive any day, because that means I care about more than myself. So teach your son to wear it as a badge of honor, even if that's different from everybody else. Because trust me, I was made fun of growing up. I didn't allow it to eat me alive and make me into a vengeful, hateful person, because none of these videos will ever have been created. You will ultimately have control of your life, so choose wisely and know that you have the choice. And this whole world is teaching you to pick left or right, to pick box 1 or box 2, instead of realizing, because I tell people all the time, you need real eyes to realize that in an infinite universe, why are there only 2 choices? Well, if you believe there are only 2 choices, well, is there any wonder why you don't see any others? If you believe you're stuck in life, is it any wonder why you feel like you're drowning in a world of cement? The ironic part is, we people, we humans, have such power of control of our universe, or multiverse, whatever you want to call it, based on our feelings, by changing the light that we see, that we are so powerful that we can turn our power off by saying we don't believe it exists. And the world, or universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it, will actually give you confirmation for your belief system. How can you change the world if you don't believe that you can? Well, like most people say, well, I'm just one person. Well, one person could end up changing the life of another person, who could change the life of another person, and so on and so forth. Don't think small. One person can change the world. And I'll give you a prime example of putting this in perspective, and I've used this example before. How many people, if they had a time machine, if they had the ability to go back and assassinate Hitler? Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying the history books are right or wrong about him. I'm not making any judgment call. I'm going based on what we've been told. If you had a time machine and could assassinate Hitler, would you do it? Knowing that it would change the world. Now, think about that from that perspective. That's just one person. But yet many people would actually, at the very least, consider it if it changed the world. So if eliminating a person could potentially change the entire world, why can't you, if you take it from the other perspective, why can't your love and light and kindness change the world as well, and maybe just as extreme? Because even if they did assassinate him, Hitler, and even if it did change the world, do you think it changed instantly once the trigger was pulled, or do you think it changed over time? So a lot of the change we'll never see. I have been on this channel off and on since 2011. I've never met any of the people. Maybe one person recognized me at one point that lived locally. But other than that, I've never met 99.9% of the people on here. So how do I know how many people's lives I've changed? And I've had messages over the years of people saying, you know what, I was going to commit suicide, and I watched a couple of your videos, and it actually turned my life around. Well, what if that person is the person that cures cancer? Or creates some energy source that's created from just pulling out electricity from the atmosphere? You never know what you can do to change the world unless you don't. And so many people defeat themselves by saying, oh, I can't do it, or it's too hard, or I'm stuck. Well, if that's the way you want to be, then keep that mindset. As they say, it's better to try and fail than to never try at all. Because, like I said, you will create your own world. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're about to go race the fastest person on the planet. Well, most people would say, there's no way I'm going to win. So what do? Do you think they're going to go work out every day? You think they're going to train absolutely hard? Do you think they're going to go onto that racetrack with confidence? Or even at all? So what happens if that person already has that self-defeating attitude, all of a sudden says, you know what, I'm not even going to waste my time going to exercise and even going to the race because I can't win. Well, congratulations, you made what you said come true. That's how powerful you are. But what about a person that says, I don't know if I can win, but I'm going to do everything in my power to try. And you exercise, and you train, and you stretch, and you run, and when you get there, you have the confidence of saying that I'm going to do the best that I can to win. It doesn't guarantee you'll win, but I guarantee you'll be a lot prouder of yourself for the attempt and the effort. And who knows, maybe you do win. Like they say with the lottery, you got to be in it to win it. Because if you have the attitude of, oh, I never win, and you never buy a ticket, well, what a surprise. You're not going to win if you don't buy a ticket. So my point is, changing the world doesn't mean you have to change everybody. Sometimes it's just changing the life of one person. Believe me, you will learn a lot from your worst enemy. Just as much as you can with your best friend. Sometimes your worst enemies are even more blunt. How many times have you said to your friend or family members or people that care about you, you try on a new outfit or you have a new hairstyle, and you say to them, oh, what do you think? And they say, oh, looks good. Well, somebody that hates you might tell you exactly what you need to hear. If you look like a clown, wouldn't you want somebody to tell you instead of just pandering to you or just saying what you don't really want to hear? Or unless, is that what you want? I mean, Brittany says, you're already lost by your thoughts. Your mind will betray you. Trust your heart. Put your heart into things. Your head is always going to make you doubt. When you truly love somebody, you just know it. Just like when your stomach growls, it knows it's hungry. Your brain will always try and give you doubt. Make you think, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't go out today. Or maybe you can't do it. Or maybe you're not good enough. Why would you do that to yourself? And I'll share a story I haven't shared in a long time. When I was younger, in my depressing days, when people used to make fun of me because I was overweight and my family was not the wealthiest people on the block, we were pretty poor, I got to the point where people used to abuse me so much mentally and make fun of me that I wanted to commit suicide at one point. And I was thinking about how I was going to do it. And at one point, I was picturing myself dead. And they were burying me in the ground. And I could look up and see all of my family crying. And I started to laugh for a second. And I said, here I am at one of the lowest points of my life where I wanted to end my life. And I was more concerned about the people that I love and hurting them than I was eliminating my own pain. And I said to myself, there have been so many people, and to this day, because I have another channel, it's a comic book channel, I have people that will say nasty lies about me all the time. So it doesn't change. But my thing is, it's bad enough when other people are mean and cruel and vindictive and hurtful. So why would you want to do that to yourself? You cannot control what anybody else does, but you can control what you do or what you don't do. And I think this world is trying so hard to get people to, you know, like they say, poop or get off the pot or the bowl or whatever they say. And most people are just so afraid because they think, oh, well, you know, you hear all these scary things, so what happens to people? Well, I've been talking about stuff that supposedly people said would be the end of me for getting close to a decade. Still here. I've had threats. I've had people call my house and give me death threats. You got to lose the fear. And I won't get into a situation that happened to me today, but I went into that situation with no fear at all and came out actually a lot better than I did the day before. You have to, well, you don't have to, you should choose to give yourself credit, to see the good in you. And if you don't have any good in you or you don't think you have any good in you, find it. You're not going to find it on your couch. You're not going to find it drowning in a bowl of ice cream, watching depressing movies. It's not motivating. Getting drunk or using plenty of drugs. And Lenny says he's scared of beautiful women. Well, you will have to ask yourself, why is that? What makes you afraid? Are they not just as human as you are? And if somebody that is extremely attractive would look down on you or treat you in a very negative way, then what good is outside beauty if there is no inside beauty? Plus also, like they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And Anonymous Farm says, the creatures in power want us to be in fear. Well, doesn't mean you have to be. You know, you could watch a scary movie and be afraid, but see it as just entertainment and know that no monster's coming through the screen to get you. And it's okay to be afraid because not all fear is bad. Why do you think your parents tell you to stay away from the neighbor's dog? Or if you're at the zoo, don't climb through the cage of the tiger pen because bad things can happen. Fear is a tool. How about this? Ever been on a roller coaster? I bet a lot of people get scared when they're in the amusement park going on these scary rides, but isn't it fun? See, people view negative as bad. Look at a magnet. A magnet has a positive side and it has a negative side. Does that mean the positive side of the magnet is always happy and the negative side of the magnet's always angry and sad? No, it's just two parts of the yin and the yang, the balance. So why be any different? You are a magnet. You attract not what you think, not what you hope, not what you wish, not what you dream, but what you feel. And that's why your heart and your head can be at war with each other. How many people in life get on their knees and pray for stuff and never get it? Because their heart doesn't believe what their head is saying. You're not in balance. You could lie to everybody. Heck, you could lie to yourself. But you can't lie to truth. You can tell somebody every single day for the rest of your life that you love them. But there's a big difference between saying you're loving somebody and feeling that love. But you could pretend. You could lie to yourself. So which is true, your heart or your head? And what does the world teach you? Listen to your head. You got to think instead of you have to feel. Trust your instincts. People don't trust their instincts anymore. When you open your world up and listen to yourself, you are a magnet, you are an antenna, you are a radio system, you are anything you wish to be. As far as the Q stuff, I don't know enough about it. I've watched a couple of things. Like I said, I listen to all sides. It's okay to listen to all sides. So I think of it as an observer. If you know about comic books, like I said, I have a comic book channel called We Love Comics. It's my little relaxation kind of thing, which is kind of ironic considering I have haters there too. But if you ever knew about the Marvel comic character known as the Watcher, they're supposed to be very intelligent alien life forms that have evolved so much that they could basically almost do anything, and they spend their lives observing other people, not getting involved. Well, you can listen to the most nastiest things you want and the kindest things you want. Doesn't mean you have to participate in them or believe in them, but observe. So I've listened to the Q stuff, but I could believe that person or persons are being honest, or I could believe that they're 100% lying. Either way, I don't know. All you can do is assume. So why put yourself in a situation that you have no control over, but yet you can listen to it, you can get ideas from it, and even if it's a person that's absolutely lying to you, if they say something that resonates with you and it helps put a positive part of your life in order, then heck, that's a great thing. I mean, I'll give you an example. I never really wanted to listen to Alex Jones. Now, he has the right to speak, but his motives are not what people claim them to be. But one of the good things is he's actually helped awaken a lot of people. Now, that means once you're awakened, you have to do your own research. If you spend your whole life having somebody else teach you everything in life, instead of you searching for it yourself, you better hope the people you're listening to are right, and you better have no doubt. So when it comes to something like Q, for example, do you know for a fact if whoever's typing that or whomever is typing that, can you say for a fact that person is 100% genuine, honest, and doing it for your best benefit? You don't know. So if I was a betting man, I wouldn't place my bets either way. Because if I'm going to bet on something, I want the sure thing. Why do you think so many people lose their house and their farm and their bank accounts based on a hunch or a tip when it comes to betting and gambling? A fool and their money are soon parted. Well, it's the same thing with people's emotions and livelihood. Be careful who you attach your wagon to. Now again, if you do it from a viewpoint as an observationalist, you can listen to anything. And who cares what anybody else thinks? You're not doing it for them, you're doing it for yourself. You want to change the world, get to know the world. Not based on what other people say, but based through your own experience. And that's why when you go to school, they educate you. You ever hear in a war when they capture the enemy, they bring them to where? A re-education camp. So do you want to be educated or do you want to have wisdom? Education is somebody else sharing their life experience with you, and you have to hope those people are right. Or wisdom is something that you learned based on your own experience. And the Quaz 182 says he's got to run. Don't run too fast, you may trip, but thank you for watching. Driving is faster, I must say. So, alright, so Quaz says they seem to have some inside info. So maybe they are disinfo agents, but they are informed when it comes to inside Washington stuff. That is true. Now you have to go to the point of what is the motive? What do they have to gain from it? Will they profit from it? Because remember, like I said, whether you pick Democrat or Republican, their job is to keep you in the slave system. Freedom of choice. Remember I said earlier, everybody makes you think that you only have two choices? You have infinite choices. In a democracy, or let's just say a free republic, if we're supposedly so free, why do we only have Democrats and Republicans as our ultimate, always two choices for a government official? If we're supposed to be totally free, shouldn't anybody be able to be up there and win? Why is it always wealthy people? It's the illusion of freedom, and we tend to go along with it because some of us benefit from it. And that's why I say, be careful who you hitch your wagon to. Because if you don't know their intent, you know, the whole religious thing, Satan isn't going to come at you to try and get your soul by telling you he's going to hurt you. He's going to pretend to give you everything that you want. So be very careful about the snake oil salesman. Because all salesmen want to sell you something. So they got to be nice to you. Because if they call you a jerk or they tell you, oh, this product's a piece of garbage, you're not going to buy it. So they got to lie. It's what are you willing to believe based on no proof. Not knowing the individuals, not knowing their motive. Even if they tell you what their motive is. How do you know that's the truth? How do you know it doesn't change? Think about that. What if the only way that somebody can get you to trust them is by doing some nice things? Because you ever hitch your wagon to some, like, movie star or superstar or sports star, and, you know, they may do some criminal activity, but as long as they're on your team and as long as they're producing, you look the other way? That's a dangerous wagon to hook yourself to. Maybe some people are smart enough to think, well, once we got them hooked onto our wagon, they'll follow us anywhere, even off a cliff. Get all facts. Get all information. If you're a feminist, then you got to listen to what men think and say if you want the full idea. If you are from Black Lives Matter, you have to listen to white people's problems and what they have to say. If you are Antifa, well, first of all, if you're from Antifa, you're probably not listening here, and those people are going in the wrong direction because you cannot say you're for stopping fascists by using fascist tactics. That's really the definition of irony. But my point is, instead of silencing people, why not debate them and listen to them and learn? People are not willing to do that anymore, even in the comic book community. And I say community facetiously. That if you collect in a different way than somebody else does, they'll make fun of you or attack you or tell you you're wrong. Well, who is anybody else to tell you that what you're doing is wrong as long as you're not infringing on the rights of somebody else? Because just because something's wrong in somebody else's eyes does not make it so. Just because somebody says they believe you're right does not make it so. So changing the world is as easy or as complicated as you want to make it. The first step is changing yourself, understanding or understanding yourself, then listening to all sides of the equation to get the best chance to go in the direction that you feel works best for you. Not just by hooking onto something because it feels right away. Trust has to be earned. So, like, for example, the Q thing that somebody brought up, I'll listen to what they have to say. But not for nothing, I've been hearing this kind of stuff since 2011. Still waiting for some of these big people to be, arrested. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Or maybe it's just another one of those, oh yeah, next week, next month, next year, next term. How long do we wait? Because not for nothing, we've had more than one president since this country has been created. And is the country going in a more positive, united direction? A healthier and wealthier direction? So with all these leaders supposedly knowing so much more than we do, how come we're not getting better? Why are we getting more divisive? More depressed? More angry? There's always a reason. And people are always afraid to hear all sides. And I'll even say, Brittany, just to make the point, you say that's why you read your Bible. Now let me ask you, do you know the person that wrote it? Did you see that person write it? Do you know that what's written in there is 100% as it states? You say you have a personal relationship with Jesus, and that's great if you do, but I'm just playing, you know, quote-unquote devil's advocate. Have you ever physically met Jesus? Ever talked to him? Now, I'm not talking about praying. I'm talking about like a conversation we're having right now, because if you respond, that means you hear from me. Have you ever had Jesus Christ on a podcast? My point is, most of the things that we believe in are based on what we've been told. Because I seriously doubt if you would have been born and left to fend for yourself, you would know anything about Jesus. Now, again, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying you have to look at it from the perspective of most things that we've been told is like entering information into a computer. It's all about a program. And people end up running those programs based on faith, belief, choice. None of them are truth. You cannot say, and again, I'm not trying to bash you for your belief system. You have every right to believe in any way you want. Whether I do or anybody else does is irrelevant to your belief. But what I am saying is, it's based not on truth. Even if you say it is, because, like I said, you've never met God. You've never met Jesus. That doesn't mean they don't exist. But you don't know either. You're basing it on your faith, your belief. A belief can be right, a belief can be wrong. You won't know. So that's what I'm saying, to be very careful. Listen to all sides. Hear all different perspectives. Make sure you have all of the information. Sometimes in this world you may never get all the information, but sometimes you don't need 100% of the puzzle pieces to know what picture it's formulating. So Lorenzo says, Christ is in us, so we don't need him on podcast. Okay, Lorenzo, show me him. And again, I'm not saying Christ doesn't exist. I'm just going by your words. You're saying Christ is in us. Show me. Prove it. If you were in a court and I was a judge and you had to prove to me without a shadow of a doubt that what you said is 100% truth, how do you prove it? What are you basing it on? Now, I guarantee you, that is something that you were told. You did not wake up one day at 4 years old and say, hey, Mom, Christ is within me. And Lorenzo, you're saying he fulfilled things. How do you know Christ is a he? How do you know he's not both genders? Again, just saying. He promised many of them were in our day. Okay, so did he speak to you of this promise? Or she or it? Did Christ speak to you directly about this promise you're claiming? Again, I'm not trying to attack your belief system. I'm trying to get you to, like I say, understand. And this is the part that people don't want to let go of. They want to hold on to a belief system and not listen to anything else. The idea is you cannot see the whole world when you only see one side. But remember, everything that we learned has been from somebody else telling us things. And you ever realize most of those people are turning out more and more to be liars? Again, be careful who you hitch your wagon to. Right. So Brittany's being honest. She said, and I'm assuming you're a she, correct me if I'm wrong, but says, no, I didn't see him write it. No, I've never seen him. So you believe it to be true, but you don't know. So if you have a belief system, there is no way to find out if you are truly right. So you are hoping it is. It sounds like you believe it. That's not a bad thing, but you don't know. And that's the trap in this system. And that's why the world cannot change, because people hang on to their beliefs so hard that they don't want to listen to anything that contradicts their own belief system. Because my belief system may be different from your belief system, but none of us know. The whole world tells us what happens when we die. The Bible tells us, religions tell us this, other people that say they've died or partially died and came back say, none of us know until it happens. And last time I checked, a person that dies and is dead is not on the 5 o'clock news the next day to tell us about it. So how do we truly know what happens? We can guess, we can go with what we think makes us happy or calm, but how do you know it's right until it happens? What if the wagon that you hitched yourself to, and I'm not saying to anybody specifically, what if they're wrong? Now you're stuck because you never saw every opportunity out there to get a better point of view. And if at the very least, if you go out there and hear everybody's point of view, it may even strengthen your current belief even more. It's fear that keeps people from listening to all sides, and fear equals control. So if you have a belief system that's so strong, how about testing it? Listen to other people's things. I'm not saying listening to it like all of a sudden, if you believe in Jesus and all of a sudden you started listening to Satanists, that doesn't mean you're becoming a Satanist. It just means you're listening to their point of view. Now, that could make your belief system even stronger and say, you know what? I went to the depths of hell and I listened to the most evil, corrupt people from their true belief system, and it just made my belief that much stronger. Well, then it served a purpose, didn't it? It's like a person that was an alcoholic and they quit drinking, and the only way they could say that they quit is never going to a bar again. Well, true strength is not running from your problem. It's facing it and knowing you have control over it. That's the difference. And see, Brittany's being very honest. She said, yes, I was told as a child. Programming. It could be right. I'm not suggesting it's right or wrong. What I'm suggesting is we base things in this world that causes us separation, causes wars, causes pain, hatred, based on somebody's belief. Because if you were born in China 5,000 years ago, you would not have the same belief you have now. So a belief could depend on when you were born, where you were born, who you were born to. Your parents could be Satanists for all you know. You think you're going to grow up a Christian if your parents are Satanists? If your parents were the KKK and taught you all your life that people of other races are evil, you're probably going to, at the very least, have a belief of that system. So the idea is, when people really become open, that's when they'll change the world. When people, and this is the way that we've been programmed. We're programmed to believe in something and latch onto it with both hands and never let go. And that is the control. And that is why I use the example of is the glass half full or half empty? And they show a glass that has half with water, and they say to you, well, it's either pessimistic or optimistic. No. It's an entrapment, because whether you say the glass is half full or whether you say the glass is half empty, both answers are wrong. Because last time I checked, the glass is half filled with water and half filled with air. Air has molecules. That air could have light particles, could have dust particles, microscopic organisms you can't see, but they control you based on the fact that you're only observing what you see. Because like they say, seeing is believing. That's why most of the people in the world cannot change the world, because they are so hooked into their belief, whether it be right or wrong. They're so afraid to go out and examine all aspects of the world, if not for anything, to strengthen their own beliefs. That is true fear. If you truly believe in Christ, and that's great if you do, listen to people that prove that Christ doesn't exist. And if you could still maintain your belief from that, then that strengthened it and it confirmed it. But most people don't think that way. They just want to surround themselves with people who have the same beliefs, so it makes them feel better. You want a true test of your belief? Listen to the exact opposite of what you believe in. Hear their honest words in their own belief and their own perspective, and see how you come out from it after you've listened to another side. And Lorenzo says all churches are false. Well, how do you know that? Have you been to every single church throughout history? See what I'm saying? This is the trap. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm trying to make the point that we are so conditioned, and this is the programming they've done to us, so conditioned to focus on something and hold on to it so tight that you cannot hear other perspectives. You know how many people will be angry at me because I question that there might not be a God or a Jesus? And I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying, why can't we listen to all perspectives? Because like I said before, your perspective is just as right as somebody else's. And we spend our lives trying to make the other people feel bad or try and get them to change their perspective to ours. That's kind of egotistical if you think about it. And if you're a religious person, how many religious people do you know that actually do what their Bibles say? Remember the expression, he who is without sin may cast the first stone? But yet I see many religious people casting a lot of stones. So do they truly believe in what they preach? Because you're not living it. And again, well, and this could be an endless thing. The point is, none of us are right and none of us are wrong. And at the same time, we're all right and we're all wrong. So you can have a belief system, but make no mistake, you better hope your belief is attached to something that's truth. Because if it isn't, and you've spent your whole life's energy on that particular thing or that particular idea, and it ends up being false or not what you thought it was, then where do you go? And what if that's the whole key of the whole reincarnation thing? It's like a pinball machine. You play in the game until the ball falls in to pass the bumpers. Then you have to start the game all over again. And yes, Alien Refugee says, and this is what I believe, gather facts from all sides and come to a logical conclusion based on said facts, not emotions. Well said. You said it a lot better than I did. And Roger Johnson says people are just unwilling to believe the truth about their government, Social Security, national debt. Well, I could not believe in air. Does that mean it doesn't exist? People don't understand what belief really is. You know, you can't see air. When was the last time you pointed out an air molecule? So if seeing is believing, then you shouldn't believe in air. So even if you said, you know what, I don't see air, I can't taste air, I don't know where it is, I can't feel it, so maybe it doesn't exist. So you know what, I no longer believe in air. Does that mean you're not breathing it anymore? Like Yoda once said in Empire Strikes Back when he was trying to train Luke, who was not ready to believe in what Yoda was teaching. His advice was, you must unlearn what you have learned. In other words, change the programming. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. So until people want to see all parts of the world, they're only going to have certain parts of the world. And because you generate your own world based on your feelings, because when people believe in something strong enough, it attaches to their feelings. That's why if you say, if somebody believes in Jesus, somebody comes along and dismisses their belief, they feel personally attacked. Instead of saying, oh, you have a counter-argument? Let me hear your counter-argument. How many people do that? And that's how the few can control the many, because they've gotten the many to control themselves for them. Have an open mind. Listen to all sides. Just because you hear someone's perspective doesn't mean it's tainted your belief system. It may strengthen it. Or it's like maybe one day you decide that another path is the way you really should go. And it doesn't always have to be religious. It could be anything. But there's a huge difference in believing something to be true and actual truth. So if you cling on to any belief system without knowing, you better hope you're right. And you better hope people aren't taking advantage of your emotions to control you. Because like I said, all of these leaders, whether they're spiritual leaders or government leaders, how many of them are making our lives better? And that's the part that's the most challenging. It's just letting go. Seeing it from a perspective of the observationist. And it's challenging. It's frustrating. That's what can drive people crazy. Because in the end, you truly don't know. And that's okay. But don't hang on to a belief that's so strong that you're not even willing to listen to an adversary for fear that you might change your belief. Well, maybe that's the purpose of it. Maybe you needed to, because obviously if you're having that system come to you, you've attracted it to yourself, so you have to ask yourself why. Maybe there is doubt. Maybe your heart is not the same way as your head is trying to make you believe. Your heart is truth. And it could be challenging, it could be frustrating. That's why most people don't want to bother changing the world, or even changing their own world, because it's too hard. Instead of just saying, you know what, the world is an amusement park that I'm creating moment to moment. And just because a ride is scary doesn't mean it's bad. Sometimes fear is to keep you safe. Because I guarantee you, none of you would go swimming in a pool of tarantulas. But if you put a baby in a swimming pool of tarantulas, they'd probably try and play with them. Please don't anybody try. But my point is, fear is taught. It is also instinctual. How do you think we survived all of these millennia? Fear kept us from being eaten. So not all fear is bad. Trust it. Listen to it. Learn from it. It's just another side of the coin. And once you're able to do that, if you believe in your faith, then put it to the ultimate test. You ever hear the part in the Bible that they don't really talk about? At one point, Jesus Christ actually dies because he fell off a roof, and he actually goes to hell and speaks to Satan. That's the ultimate test, and the devil tried to tempt him. But even though faced with his worst enemy, he still chose the righteous path. So if you believe your belief to be so strong, then put it to the ultimate test. And see if you can still stand strong and come out with your belief. And if you can, then congratulations, you're on the right path. Are you letting fear keeping you from listening from the other side of the argument? Because it might change you or make you feel that you've put your whole life into something that ends up being untrue? That's true fear. Fear equals control. So if your belief, and I'm not saying anyone particular, but I'm saying to everybody, if your belief is so strong you don't want to hear other people, then that really is saying that you're so afraid of hearing something else that you are not even willing to listen to somebody else's point of view. Sometimes roads go in different directions and can ultimately still bring you to the same destination. So not one path will bring you where you want to go. Sometimes it's many paths. So what is it are you truly afraid of? And if you cannot admit that you have fear in your heart, then you cannot change yourself, let alone the world. Maybe that's the true test. Can you listen to all sides and still come out okay? Knowing that maybe a little bit of each side is true, because obviously if there are two groups of people and they are completely strong in their own point of view and they're both sides think they're right, then maybe both sides are true. You ever think about that? And maybe that's just part of life. You could be happy one day and you could be angry another day. It's still you. You can control who you wish to be. So why not be the best of you? Learn everything. The more you know, the less chance somebody else has the ability to take advantage of you. Because you notice religion and governments and schools and media and corporations, they profit off of your belief system that they control and manifest and feed into you. Do you ever notice that? Religions, they get plenty of donations. Governments get plenty of taxes. Schools get plenty of money and funds. The media gets paid really well. And Lorenzo says, do you think Jesus needed to know what Satan or the Sadducees, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, or those who didn't believe him? How would I know? First of all, if Jesus was real or not, I don't know. And if he was, how would I know what he was thinking? I could guess. So I say, do you think Jesus needed to know? Either you could say yes, or I could say no, or I could say I don't know. Do you want me to say something that you want to hear, is the question. And if saying the opposite of what you want to hear makes you closed-minded, is that good or bad? Open-minded, open heart. It's okay to hear things. It's okay to listen to other people that you may not believe in. It's okay for a Republican to listen to a Democrat and a Democrat to listen to a Republican. Maybe they'll both find out that they're both being stolen from. They're both being enslaved. They're both being divided. So they can both be profited off of. But you keep them divided and keep them so stubborn in their ways that they don't even want to hear the other side, no one will ever sit down and actually learn that fact, that we are all human. Whether you're black, white, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, religious, atheist, we're all human. We seem to forget that. We all want to have this ego that our belief is better than everybody else's, and we stand to it to the point where we would murder and kill people for it. That's why we've had wars throughout history. Because people are so programmed into their belief system that they are willing to kill, steal, and do whatever evil they can for their own belief system. How is that helping? Especially if it's based on religion. How many wars have been based on religion? That somebody's belief in a religion is different than somebody else's belief from a religion. Both sides think they're right, and they're willing to cause harm to the other for it. Do you think either one of those religions is preaching that? And if they are, that can't be good. The idea is to open your thought. If you truly believe in God, well then put God to the ultimate test. See everything, because remember, if you believe in God, didn't God create everything, including the devil? So you think that's an accident, or do you think it's a test to cause the ability to choose? Remember free will? Maybe that's the ultimate test. If you are afraid to listen to all sides, then that's just what it is. It's fear. Then you have to ask yourself, why? And most people will never do that. Doesn't mean you're going to be right all the time, and that's okay. You will stumble, you will make mistakes, and guess what? You will hurt people. But there's a difference between intentionally hurting somebody and hurting somebody just because it happens with no intent. And Lorenzo, you obviously, you have a belief system that you will not change, and that's fine. That shall not test the Lord God. Well, let me ask you this, Lorenzo. Which God are you referring to? Because God is not a name, it's a title. Because if you believe in Buddha, Buddha's your God. If you believe in Jesus, Jesus is your God. If you believe in Satan, Satan's your God. If you believe some alien named Fred is your God, then that's your God. So which God are you referring to? If I asked you your name, you wouldn't say human. That's the trap. You ever look on a dollar bill and it says, "In God we trust"? Well, which God are they referring to? I've said this on multiple videos. You ever see any crosses on your dollar bills? Ever see an image of Jesus? Or a bearded person in a cloud in the sky? Or churches? You sure don't. But you will see pentagrams. You will see single eyes over pyramids. People make a lot of assumptions. And if you think about if there was really a Satan, doesn't Satan want to be God? Isn't Satan arrogant enough to believe he's God? Wants to act like God? Make you love him like a God? Lie to you like he's God? How do you know the God you're worshiping is not him lying to you by telling you how much he loves you? What if that's the test to see if you can tell the difference? That could be a bad thing if you're wrong, don't you think? I mean, to me, a loving God wouldn't want to put its creations to a test. How many of you own animals? How many of you love those animals? How many of you put them on a test that causes them pain to show their love? How many of you put them through trials and tribulations to cause them suffering? Does that sound like a loving God? Or does that sound like a deceiving God that wants to be God, that pretends to be God, or even thinks he's God or she's God? Because I promise you, if you love animals, let's say you have a bunch of cats, I seriously doubt you want food today? Bow down and prove your loyalty. I bet you just give them the food because you love the animal and you treat things that you love with kindness and caring. But yet, if you see anything about religion, it's all about war. It's all about judgment. A lot of anger. And like Jesus once said, he who is without sin may cast the first stone. A lot of stones getting thrown on a daily basis. I guess there's a lot of people that have never sinned in their lives. Or people that allow their vanity, which last time I checked is a sin, to take over. That sounds like somebody that wants to be God. Again, be very careful who you latch yourself onto. And again, I'm not trying to destroy anybody's belief. And if you want to hate me for just having a different perspective that might question your path, well, you should say to yourself, what brought you here? What makes you listen? Maybe that's part of the test. Maybe that's something you needed to hear. Maybe that's something you drew yourself to. You have to ask yourself the question of why and be honest about it. Because then you will learn, then you will grow, then you will see more than just your own perspective. People want to hide in their own bubbles. I mean, look at, like, aliens. Either aliens exist or aliens don't exist. Unless you've met one, how do you know? And even if you've met one, how do you know it's not somebody pretending or lying? What if it's, instead of an alien, what if it's a demon? How do you really know? Because it was friendly? Because it helped you? Maybe that's what they do. You know, like they say, you can attract more flies with honey than you can vinegar. The idea is to think in a different way. That will help change the world. But people are they're very divisive. They don't want to hear other people's perspectives. And people's beliefs are so strong that if anybody questions it, they'll hate you for it. Which basically goes against, especially if it's a religious belief, it goes against what it teaches. Isn't religion supposed to be based on love? I don't see much love in this world anymore. I see a lot of judgment. I see a lot of pain, a lot of misery. I see a lot of people suffering. as we all walk by, pretending that we don't see that starving person with their hand out. Be careful, that's all I'm saying. Many channels will tell you what you want to hear and say what you believe. And if that's what it is just an earpiece or a reflection, what are you learning? And if that's the case, why would you ever want to be in a channel like this that would actually help make you want to question your belief to maybe learn more? You have to ask yourself, what makes you come here? What made you listen? And be true to yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, you will never learn truth. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, how are you ever going to be honest with anyone else? And that's the hardest part that people will never admit. Got to break the ego down. And it's challenging, it's hard, it's frustrating. And when you open those doors, you're going to have a lot of hatred come out of your way. A lot of people betray you. A lot of people see you in a different light. But you know what? True strength is being able to stand on your own. Not having other people tell you how to live and what to believe in. And even if you change your belief, doesn't mean you can't change it again or change it back. That's the beautiful thing about an infinite amount of choices. You can do whatever you want, including backtrack. So what have you really got to lose? But think about it. If religion is as good as they say, and God is supposedly as they say he or she is, why is there nothing but famine and hate and war and betrayal, and some people having and many people not having? That, to me, does not sound like a compassionate, caring creator. That sounds like somebody that's a little jealous or a little egotistical. Just imagine if you had the ability to create an animal, that you could literally take a scoop of clay and make a creation that loves you. Would you want it to suffer all the time? Would you want it to be in pain and always crying? Or do you think you'd take care of it because you made it? How many of you are painters? And you put your blood, sweat, and tears into making something. How many of you, after you've made that painting or made that sculpture or whatever, decide, I'm going to destroy it now? Or how many of you actually put it up on the wall or show it to your friends or absolutely love what you did, especially if it's the first time you have ever created something? I have 3 paintings on my wall that I did years ago. I'm proud of them. I don't spray paint over them. I don't destroy them. I love my creation. Well, then how do we know the very people they're telling us to worship are the true creator? Because they don't seem to treat us like they respect us. So how do we know the very God that they're telling us to worship is the one true creator? What if you're the one true creator? And you're trying to learn what the real world could be if you decided to not use your influence. What would become of the world? What would become of the universe? What would become of your creations if you gave it true free will? Where it had the choice to not believe in you or hate you. It's an interesting concept to think about. Changing the world means you're changing yourself. And opening yourself to other possibilities that even your own belief system can change or could be wrong. I'm not saying it is. That's for you to decide. Who am I to tell you how to be? I can share my thoughts, my beliefs, my ideas. It may resonate with you. It may not resonate with you. But that's the beautiful thing about an infinite world. You do have choices. And if you refuse to see parts of the world, don't be surprised that you're in a limited space, limited time. So it's an interesting concept because Alien Refugee 51 says our creator doesn't allow us to suffer. And yet there's a lot of suffering in the world. So is the person they teach us to bow down to and get on our knees and create sacrifices? That sounds more like not a creator, but somebody jealous that they didn't get to create something. You ever have a friend or family hate you because you did something they couldn't do? How many people lie and steal other people's ideas or thoughts and say it's their own? I'm just saying be careful. I don't have all the answers. But I'm not afraid to ask any kind of question. And if I pay the ultimate price for that, well, free will. My choice. So anyway, when I make these videos too long, most people don't listen to them. I know my videos are a lot different than most channels that you're going to see. I'm not just going to make a video to pander to my audience and tell them what they want to hear. I'm going to share my perspective. Maybe you'll learn from it. Maybe you'll hate me for it. That's for you to decide. But at least I give you the ability to be able to have a different point of view instead of just telling you what it is. Because there is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. There's just yours. And like any answer, they can change it. There's many ways to solve an equation. Just be open-minded. And then you will change the world. Even if it's one small, tiny speck of it. So thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Hopefully something positive came out of this. I hope nobody took offense, because I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just here to sometimes say what people maybe needed to hear or didn't want to hear. I don't know. That's for you to decide. What you take from it is up to you, but I hope it was good, and I hope it was something worth your while. So thanks for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.